With smallmouth season heating up, today I thought I'd tie a smallmouth streamer. This is more of a style rather than a specific pattern. I like to have these smaller weighted baitfish patterns in my box. They more often than not, they prove to be pretty useful. And this is the way I've been tying it for the past few years. So to get started, we're going to be using a Umpqua X 350 in a 1/0, and I've got it started with some 0.03 lead wire and a large cone head. You can adjust the wire and the size of the cone depending on what you're looking for. I typically always use the larger cone head, which you'll see why once we get farther down the fly. It kind of helps prop up some materials. So to start the tail, I'm going to grab 4 hackles from a Metz #1 magnum neck. This is in grizzly. You can pretty much tie any color you're looking for. I like my tail to be about that long. Get your feathers close. They don't have to be perfect. Then I like to do a few loose wraps. Cut the ends off. Then kind of manipulate these hackles to get them to where I want them to be. You want them to be like a V, kind of like if you were tying a frog. And then once you get it where you like, crank it down with some pressure. And those hackles are pretty well secured in there. And then for the tail, I'm going to be using 2 colors of 4-inch bandaboo. I like the bandaboo for streamers this size or jigs because there's really no waste. I think it's a little bit quicker than tying in flash boo and cutting it and sorting it, and then you're throwing stuff away. Next will be some estaz. Secure that. Some UV polar chenille. Then wrap your thread forward to just behind the cone head. Come in with your estaz, and you don't need super tight turns, but you want them touching. And I just stroke back any fibers so I don't get anything trapped. And wrap all the way up to behind the cone head. Then I usually do a couple wraps tight behind that, just to help fill in the gap behind the cone head. Now your UV polar chenille, and this you want to tie in fairly sparse. You don't need a lot of it. And then same thing like the estaz, when I get behind the cone, I'll do an extra turn or two. Now this is an extra step. You don't have to do it, but I like to do a whip finish. Advance it in front of the cone head. Do another whip finish. That's just way if this thread that's over the cone head rips, your materials aren't going anywhere. You can also just cut your thread and restart. This is just the way I do it. Give yourself a nice tie-in point here. Come in with some Guinea, and you want your hackles to be about the length of the shank of the hook. Just stroke it back. Sometimes you gotta manipulate Guinea a little bit, but Guinea's great. It does what it's told and gives you some great markings and color to your fly. So we're gonna tie in about that many. Secure it and go back onto the hook shank so you get a nice secured wraps on that. Now the wing's going to be standard cut rabbit. I like to pull some of the fibers, fur, feather off the hide and trim it into a point. That just gives it a little bit smaller tie-in bulk bump here. Get that nice and secured. Really wrap down on this. When you tie bunny in like this, it can tend to fail if you don't give it some nice tight wraps with a lot of thread. Now cut your rabbit strip about the length of the polar chenille. And the finish this flower, we're going to be using 1.5 inch Senyo's chromatic brush. Get that wrapped in. And I'll stroke that back and just wrap tight turns all the way up to the eye. I think it's usually like 8 to 10. Just keep stroking those fibers back. It just helps you not have to brush so much when you get to the end. You want all these longer fibers really flowing nicely in this fly. I'll just wrap all the way up to the eye. Since you're just using one brush and this one's not super dense, you can pretty much wrap all the way up to the hook eye and not worry about crowding it. Just do a couple wraps over it to secure it. Get back onto that shank of the hook and wrap back over that wire. Give yourself a nice thread head. Whip finish, put some glue on, and we're all done. Give this a fly a try. You won't be disappointed. You can do a lot of different colors and anything you really want. Works also really well for coho and walleye, and up here in the UP, pike will hit this too, because you know pike, they pretty much will hit whatever's in front of them. So now we're gonna brush it out, just make sure none of these fibers are trapped. And that's it. You can trim this head if you want. I prefer not to. I think it's got a little bit of motion this way, so give it a try. Thanks for watching.